So I welcome all of you to this second webinar of the series of webinar we are organizing together. ECAF is organizing together with FAO. It's the road, we call it the road towards the 8th World Congress on Conservation Agriculture. And we thought to organize these webinars, but Dr. Fenton Bede will explain you a bit more about that. I'm the moderator. I'm the president of ECAF. You may know me. And I just would like to explain how this webinar is functioning. Well, we have panelists and we do have participants. Participants are not visible and cannot well, turn on their micro. So the questions and answers you may have at the question and answer session, please use the question and answer button you find below in the Zoom screen. So that's it. And well, I also would like to well, inform right away that we probably won't have enough time to answer all questions. So I have to be kind of selective, and I try to well, to pick the most pertinent questions. Please make them as short as possible and as precise as possible so that they can be addressed by one of the panelists. Thank you very much. And with this, I pass over to Dr. Fenton Bede from FAO.
Thank you very much, Gottlieb. And thank you again also for providing the first presentation in this series, which is on profitable and sustainable farming with conservation agriculture, the future of farming. And thank you again for moderating today's, the second in the series of webinars on conservation agriculture in preparation for the 8th Congress of the World Congress for Conservation Agriculture. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I'm very pleased to see so many people here. We have 128 participants and rising, which is great. It shows the interest in conservation agriculture. And these webinars, as Gottlieb has explained, are in preparation for the 8th WCCA. And it's a collaboration in relation to the webinars between FAO and ECAF. And today I'm very pleased that Professor Amir Kassam will provide the keynote presentation on lessons learned on conservation agriculture from across the world. Okay, very briefly, who am I? Okay, my name is Fenton Bede and I'm a team leader for rural and urban cropping and mechanization systems. And that's in the Division of Plant Production and Protection here in FAO. In particular, our team promotes sustainable crop production. And these are optimized through technologies and agribusinesses that enable farmers to produce more while conserving the natural resource base and minimizing the use of pesticides and fertilizers. Focus is on diverse cropping systems in rural and urban settings and includes mechanization and protected cultivation. When we talk about sustainable crop production, the three criteria are: 1, generating income; 2, protecting the environment; and 3, creating social equity and creation of decent jobs. And in relation to sustainable crop production and FAO, I'm very pleased to announce that the global program for sustainable dryland agriculture has just been approved at the Committee on Agriculture by the member countries to FAO. And this provides a clear focus for the adoption of sustainable crop production practices in the world's drylands. As you all know, sound agronomic practices are critical to sustainable crop production, and especially those that address the preservation and enrichment of soil. Now, you're all here because you're interested in conservation agriculture, and I would like to refer you to the FAO website, which has a dedicated page and information resources for conservation agriculture. As you know, the 3 key principles are minimized tillage, permanent soil cover by mulch or cover crops, and diversification of crop rotation. By way of a brief summary, conservation agriculture is now adopted on over 180 million hectares globally. That makes 12.5% of the cropland. And most of the farmers that are benefiting from conservation agriculture are small-scale farmers. And 50% of the conservation agriculture area is in developing countries, in 78 countries in total. The Division for Plant Production and Protection, FAO, in collaboration with other divisions of FAO and partners, provides technical support on the adoption and promotion of conservation agriculture principles and practices to many member countries. In this regard, FAO has established key partnerships with the likes of CGIAR, including CIMMET and NACADA, also the African Conservation Tillage Network, Conservation Tillage Research Center of China, of course, ECAF, and financial institutions as well as including the World Bank, IFAD, and a number of non-governmental organizations. Once again, take this opportunity to thank ECAF and Gottlieb for close cooperation with FAO on raising awareness and promoting conservation agriculture, hence this series of webinars. In addition to this series of webinars, FAO and ECAF will also be carrying out 5 regional technical consultations, which will be in the format of roundtable discussions with lead experts in regions from Euro-Asia, Middle East, South Asia, Africa, Central and South America. And the purpose of these roundtable discussions is to update the global status of conservation agriculture and to learn lessons from a regional perspective. As Gottlieb has mentioned, the questions and answers, please use this during the presentation and afterwards to promote what will be discussed during the discussion following the keynote presentation. And there will also be closing remarks from Gottlieb and also my colleague, Hafiz Mumin-Janov. So moving on to the main attraction, which is Professor Amir Kassam. He's a visiting professor in the School of Agriculture, Policy and Development at the University of Reading in the UK, where he teaches agriculture and development. He's the moderator of the FAO-hosted Global Platform for Conservation Agriculture, the Community of Practice, and he is chairman of the International Conservation Agriculture Advisory Panel for Africa. Amir was born in Tanzania, has a BSc in agriculture and a PhD from the University of Reading, and also an MSc in irrigation from University of California, Davis. Amir is a fellow of the World Society of Biology and has published widely, as I'm sure you all know. In 2005, Amir was awarded an OBE by the Queen of the UK and was mentioned in the honours list in 2005 for the services to tropical agriculture and to rural development. Amir's had a rich history of working life, and his previous positions include Deputy Director General at the Africa Rice Centre, obviously CGIAR, Interim Secretary of the CGIAR Science Council, and Chairman of the Aga Khan Foundation, the UK. And also Focus Humanitarian Assistance Europe Foundation and the Tropical Agriculture Association, UK. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to hand over to Amir. Thank you.
Can you see the first slide on the screen? Hello?
Not yet, Amir. Not yet.
Amir, I think I do have to, let me see, participants.
No, I
have to make you the host, sorry.
Yeah.
No, you are
I'm the host, and I've pressed the share screen. And
now you have to select the presentation screen.
Sorry, select the. Well, I've yeah, share screen. I've and then select where.
Well, if you. Well,
there you are. That's looking good.
Oh, we got.
Now you're on.
Am I?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Well. Thank you very much, Fenton, for that very generous introduction. I am absolutely delighted to be here with you all, and I thank ECAF and FAO for this invitation. Thank you all for coming from wherever you are watching this webinar. I will be giving this webinar on behalf of the global community of practice of conservation agriculture, which has been running for so many years, and I moderate an FAO-hosted platform. I will not go into things which Professor Gottlieb went through last time. That PowerPoint is available on the website. He covered why conservation agriculture is the future of agriculture. and how it is underpinned by scientifically sound pillars and of principles and practices, and they can be shown to be now growingly supported by the science of ecology, the science of conservation, the science of regeneration, and the science of sustainability as we understand it. Okay, I will be basically covering three areas. The first one, we will look at the successful experiences with CA in terms of the work which has been going on through the global community of practice, which of course contains large numbers of farmers, experts, policy advisors, and academics, and in fact the whole network, the whole global network is filled with the spirit of volunteerism, and a lot of work goes on beyond the institutional demands. We'll look at the successful experiences which we now have in terms of global spread. We will then look at country cases very quickly. I don't have much time. And then we will look at what have we learned from the CA spread. And I want to focus on two things. One is the conditions for adoption and mainstreaming, which is essentially the understanding of what is necessary and what makes sufficient condition for adoption in smaller areas, but then eventually mainstreaming. I have separated the term mainstreaming, which is when not only farmers are adopting it, but the momentum is such that the national institutions begin to align themselves towards this common objectives of sustainable agriculture driven centrally by conservation agriculture. I would also like to briefly touch upon what is the global crisis as driver of CA teaching us. And then I will finish off with the greater learnings which we must look at, and whether there are opportunities there for learning more and understanding what might be possible to do together with other struggles which are going on. The presentation draws heavily on these three volumes called Advances in Conservation Agriculture. 2 volumes have been published this year, and the third volume, which is on global adoption and spread, is moving towards the in-press phase. But this 3 volumes are a contribution from 200 authors from the community of practice of conservation agriculture globally, from every region, every continent, and covering most of the agroecologies. Let's look at this. Conservation agriculture is spread. Oh, sorry. Oh my God. Sorry. This has picked up some voice in the background. Here is the curve which has documented the global spread of conservation agriculture. We today actually stand not only at 180 million hectare, but the rate of growth since 2009 has almost doubled from the rate which was previously from 1990. Which was around 5 million tons or so. But since 2008, we have been increasing at the rate of more than 10 million hectares a year, which is the size of the whole Portugal, every year being converted, transformed into early stages of CA, and then moving towards its own maturity timings. This rate of growth and the current updating which has been taking place through this 3 volumes suggests that we are now well over 200 million hectares, which is 15%, and moving now into what I would refer to as the tipping point. And with all the genies out of the bottle, and our movement moving CA forward just about everywhere. When for example, in 2008, we only had 36 countries, and only 4% of the area was in Asia, Africa, and Europe. In 2015, we had 23% in Asia, Africa, and in Europe, and there were nearly 80 countries, and now we have more than 90 countries reporting, not just working on CA, but actually reporting areas being scaled in 90 countries. And this is a colossal, to me, a colossal success about which we all the whole community can take pride in. In terms of the rough sort of area, we're talking about 140 million hectares, for example, are medium and large holders, but you know, increasingly more than 22-24% are smallholders. But in terms of numbers, we're really talking about 30 to 40 million smallholders benefiting from conservation agriculture, whereas large farmers, although they play a different role in terms of our food security, they are about fewer than 250,000. Let's go through very quickly, looking at country by country successful experiences worldwide. I've broken the two into two clusters, the countries which basically come from mostly mechanized area and dominantly large scale, although not exclusively, and then the area which is mechanizing and dominantly small scale, although not exclusively, and so let's look at these countries very quickly. Canada, more than 50% area already transformed. All the Western provinces, landscape transformed. A book has already been written about the experiences. They are running, for example, Alberta is running a carbon sequestration scheme set up before Kyoto, and now the country is in a mainstreaming phase. Brazil and Paraguay, we have more than 52% in Brazil and more than 63% in Paraguay. In fact, some people say it's even closer to 100%. But these are colossal advances for the conservation agriculture farming. Small scale and large scale farmers are institutionally integrated. And Paraguay, as you probably know, 70% of the farmers are small scale, and half of them don't. They use animal traction power to run their business. And both of them have now, they are in the first and the third global exporters of soya. And they have a terrific example of what can be done in terms of CA, which they have been using to manage watersheds. And one of the biggest example is the Itapu Dam watershed management, which the watersheds drain into that lake, and that lake runs the largest hydroelectric power in the world. Australia, we have more than 50% of the area, 22 million hectares under CA, almost 100% in the Western and Southern Australia. Mainstreaming is now going on, and carbon sequestration programs are promoted. UK and Spain, United Kingdom, 15% of the area is now under CA. Spain, 1 million hectare, 8%. But these are moving forward with farmers and civil society support, and the government are now providing some support. Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, as we've heard for many years now, they have been adopting CA on larger area, and they have already more than 3 million hectares, but they have another over 10 million hectares, which is moving closer and closer to CA. And similarly, Uzbekistan, highly degraded agricultural land base, which is now moving forward in regenerating and restoring, and there is almost 1 million hectares coming, I think, on stream into CA, and the governments are supporting these schemes. Iran and Syria, we go into the next region, West Asia, Southeast Asia, and Africa. Iran and Syria, they are great examples of success under severe sanctions. And farmers are networking, and governments are running national initiatives. I was in Syria last December. I had meetings with the government establishing national platform for CA. This is Syria, and already thousands of hectares are now already in place. India, I have listed India partly because of its urgency now to shift over to CA, and they are shifting. Unfortunately, it has taken very long to get themselves organized, but there is now, they claim that there are 3.5 million hectares of various forms of CA, including in rice systems, and now government is beginning to support there. I was in India earlier, but the effort is still a bit fragmented, but there is now growing organizational arrangement coming through. China, of course, we've known for a long time, their effort has been consistent for 20 years, and 9 million hectares have already been transformed into CA, and they have locally manufactured drills, just as India has, and also Iran and Syria. One of the interesting things is that local workshops are able to produce very, very reasonably priced seeders. South Africa is a great example of a country which is mainstreaming CA. 25% is under good quality CA, and in fact the whole agriculture sector, 50% of cropland in South Africa is already moved into continuous no-till. Mainstreaming is taking place. Ghana, I've chosen that because there's a big effort now going on in Ghana. There's already 5%. All smallholders, hardly any agrochemicals being used, with a CA training center guiding the small farmers, and scaling initiatives are now in place. Morocco is a great example in a dry area, which is got 2% of the area. But the point is that the government in fact announced a AAA initiative at COP22, which basically is going to be based on conservation agriculture in Morocco, and hopefully in the rest of Africa, and that they have already set the target of 2 million hectares in the coming years. These are great successful experiences, which I can talk about a lot more, but these are just a selection of all the cases one could look at, and they're all different. They have different backgrounds, and they have all kinds of different combinations of things. So let's look at what we've been learning. Conditions for adoption and mainstreaming. I think we are realizing that it is not just anything which we want in a long-term permanent basis. I think we're talking about laying the foundation of something new, not just doing something new here and there, but and then we will look at how CA has been driven forward by the global crisis. 5 criteria of coordinated success, to me, are critical, and this is for not just for adoption, but eventually mainstreaming at the national level. Number 1, the presence of champions and pioneer farmers. Number 2, presence of farmers and their communities coming together to form powerful farmer organizations for proactive action and greater self-reliance. Number 3, the presence of education, research, innovation system. Number 4, presence of governance, local and national, that creates policy and opportunities for institutional support and for transformation. Number 5, presence of effective capacity of farmer and community to partner with the business service sector in ways that benefit all. This is basically including all, and when I say all, nature as well, because we are concerned about capturing benefit, including in agricultural land, which are restoring as much as possible of what we have destroyed of nature. Now, learning the second part, which I think I used to say, oh, these are the drivers of CA, and they've appeared at different times. And of course, my own inquiries now tell me that these are not just appearing at different times. They've been ongoing everywhere. And I can list this, and we all know of them, so like soil erosion, and we always highlight the dust bowls in dust bowl phase in Midwest. But dust bowls are occurring even now, and they've been occurring everywhere, including Europe. Last one in Germany in April 2011 that led to a 82-car pileup and killed 8 people. Droughts, cost of energy input, which the energy hike in 70s, you all remember. And then the natural resource degradation, we've been talking about it as long as I remember. And ecosystem dysfunctions have been now documented on a grand scale by the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment. Climate breakdown. It's gone beyond change. It is breaking down. And we have been listening to this and trying to respond to it. Food insecurity, again, has been with us all the time. And then the inability to service the needs of smallholder livelihoods, that has been with us. And of course, the science and education in disarray has been with us again alongside. And finally, the international development effort seemed to be ineffective because of all the other things I've listed. If we were that effective, we would be. But these things have created a crisis, and in which CA has been the approach used by farmers, and it's been spreading largely because the farmers said this is what we think is going to work, and it is working. But I want you to now realize that in terms of our learning, we are not the only community of practice which has been trying to respond to this, and some of these we know are beyond just our capability as community. But there are other struggles going on in all these crisis areas which are going on, and that I think I'm going to develop that a little bit further. So the next third item, which I want to finish with, is the question, given the growing worldwide spread of CA, which we just seen, the question that arises is, so what? In other words, do we continue with CA business as usual? That is, with modest growth here and there, and reacting to chronic and looming crises? Or is there something more we must learn and do? By taking a broader look at what is going on in the world, in the global food and agricultural system, could we see what more can we learn and act upon? Perhaps we must become more proactive, converge with or complement other struggles, given the interconnectedness of these crises. This slide it represents the global burden of chronic challenges. This is a report which just came out, a peer-reviewed paper by the the National Academy of Sciences. It says that the Earth is accelerating towards sixth mass extinction event that could see disintegration of civilization, scientists warn. They also say that there is time, but the window of opportunity is almost closed. We must say what we can. or lose the opportunity to do so forever. And recall, remember, please recall, within the global burden of crisis, the food and agriculture system is regarded as a leading cause of global species extinction, habitat destruction, land degradation and abandonment, water pollution, ocean and underground dead zones, climate change, and human ill health. We, some 25 global scholars and thinkers got together over the last 2 years and did an analysis, which we have brought together into a book called Rethinking Food and Agriculture, New Ways Forward. This book essentially analyzes what are the root, or even I would say fundamental problems which have led to this chronic challenges at the global level, this burden which we are carrying. And given that for the last 50 years, at least throughout my whole career, more than 50 years, I've done nothing but worry about these things, and so have you. The question arises, why are we not making significant progress? In fact, why are we going backwards? And that is what is analyzed in this book. And then all the chapters, there are about 20 chapters, offer ways forward. And some of these things you are fully aware of. But I think we have not been concerned enough to challenge them because we haven't understood what are the underlying issues, what are the fundamental root causes. And I just, for example, on this list are 12 things which have been fully assessed in this book. We are dealing with pervasive poverty. As I said, we now have still 1 billion people kept hungry, another billion more than are in poverty. And we are now going into poor diet situation and ill health where people can afford food. And our education systems are now, and research systems are so poor. And we have therefore ineffective institutions who keep responding but are not able to do much about it. And we basically are moving forward with a mismatch land use policy environment dominated by the corporate sector backed up by neoliberal capitalism, aimed at infinite growth in an infinite world. And as you have all experienced that in the last 20 years or so, there has been a huge loss in trust in our politicians because we just don't see things going well. It is in fact, we've arrived at a situation of a political and economic ideology and a food regime with a distribution system in which farmers, consumers, and the public have little effective say. So I finish my presentation, which basically says that there is hope, but for everyone, we must ask ourselves that is there hope by all of us having just looked around at how CA has been successfully spreading worldwide and the growing recognition of the important role that CA plays in solutions of these chronic challenges faced by the food and agriculture system. The conclusion is definitely yes, in the world where we exist. But then with coming together of the global expert in this analysis of the book, the conclusion is that we all, everyone, because this is everybody's concern, everyone needs to explore the concept of inclusive responsibility, which is a guiding framework of ethics and values to promote sustainable but responsible food and agriculture system based on 6 interconnected themes. And in this list of 6 interconnected themes, these are broad themes, the role of CA-based approaches has a core place as part of the multifunctional paradigms of agriculture, along other themes. I end my presentation here, and I thank you for listening and for your time.
Thank you very much, Amir, for this really very interesting presentation. I don't know whether you well still want to well be the host. Otherwise, you could put the ECAF Secretariat again as the host of this meeting.
Yeah, Julio was supposed to turn it back to you as host.
Okay. Well, I actually don't need to be the host, but in any case. So really a very, very interesting presentation. As I said, there are quite a few questions in the question answer box. So I would like to start briefly. Well, there is one you may answer immediately, Amir. When are you going to report around 200 million hectares under CA?
Oh, that is coming. Sorry, that is that is coming in the book, and it is a global effort of people who have contributed that information, and it will be in the book. I'm hoping that this will be before the 8th World Congress. The book will come out, and there will be hopefully a separate journal paper on the more details of country by country as we did for the last update.
Okay, thanks a lot. This question is answered then. There were a few questions about the low adoption rates in a few regions all over the world. One of them, sub-Saharan Africa, also in Nepal. Others are asking with regard to Ethiopia, what to do in Ethiopia. I hope I got it right, that it was Ethiopia. So how would you, well, what reasons would you name for the low adoption rates in these regions? It was sub-Saharan Africa, Nepal, and also Ethiopia.
That's always an interesting question, and we must keep asking that. But at the same time, I actually, from our learnings, we have written many papers. I mean, people from Brazil, from even Africa, like South Africa. They recorded how the experiences have been brought about. In Africa, I think the number one, it has always been last in the queue, and I think people don't realize, as Professor Gottlieb has always said, that Africa and Europe are the developing regions when it comes to CA. And yet every day the question is, oh, why Africa is obviously not suitable? No, and of course we have a mischievous group which has been telling us that we're all wasting time without offering any alternative. No, Africa also has been moving forward. When 2008 we had only about 9 countries. In 2015 we had over 22 countries, and now we have 2/3 of Africa countries actually reporting CA. And do you know that we have underestimated the CA areas in Africa? For example, because we've been mainly focusing on the cropland area, what has that has meant that we've ignored some of the, in fact, indigenous systems, which are cropland area with trees. And these are running in millions of hectares along the Sudan zone, the Sahelian zone, and some of the semi-arid zone throughout Africa. We have shown that South Africa is already 50% into CA soon. But yes, there are now countries which you can pick. Oh, you might say Ethiopia, but now Ethiopia government actually in 2010 the ECAF conference in Madrid, the Ethiopian minister was with us for the whole period, and there is now a very vibrant program of conservation agriculture in Ethiopia. FAO has been there. They're talking about sustainable mechanization and CA and several other things are happening. So Ethiopia also is now, you can't now escape that this knowledge is out of the bottle, and everywhere they can actually don't have to travel fast to find out more. You mentioned Nepal. Well, I think you'll be surprised that even Nepal now is moving forward with CA, CIMMYT, in fact, CIMMYT and its network had a very nice regional meeting in Nepal, and actually put out a declaration for CA for South Asia, including the chapter in the book which describes the Nepal experience. Admittedly, it's recently coming on board, but they are moving.
Well, in connection with this answer now, I just picked up a question. What would be the best ways of scaling up CA in sub-Saharan Africa?
What would be the best way of setting up? I think given that this is a long-term interest, and given those 5 conditions have to come into place, I think if you look at what African conservation tillage is doing, essentially, and FAO, essentially we are laying the foundation for new agriculture in Africa, and this means that all these things must happen simultaneously without losing touch, without losing the incredible work which must go on at the grassroots. To me, ACT, which was conceived at the first Conservation Agriculture Conference of FAO in 1997, in 98 in Harare, has been nurtured by FAO, and they now have a long-term strategic partnership. They are laying the foundation for conservation agriculture centers of excellence, and they want to see 25 centers of excellence hubs in Africa, of which 7 are now already in the pipeline, and there will be another 12 or so in the coming 5 years. So we must establish the institutions which will back up then the grassroots work, train people, educate managers and professionals. And of course, we already find that you have a CA center now in Rwanda. It is called the RICA Center, the Rwanda Institute for Conservation Agriculture. We have a CA center in Ghana. We have various universities already now establishing curriculum. So this is going to be for the long term. And then in the meantime, we must do what is possible at the immediate level. And unfortunately, this is not a reductive approach to development, that you throw one component, another component. No, this requires longer term effort. And where there's longer term efforts up there, and I just point out one example, the Aga Khan Foundation's effort in northern Mozambique, we have, and I say we because I have been involved for the last 6 years in that region where there are no private sector services of any kind. There's no agrochemical, and they have transformed smallholder farming of 32,000 households, more than 150,000 people benefiting from conservation agriculture, because it is a program which does not rely on outside funding of institutions who don't really fully understand CA or believe in it. So I think we must do two things: lay the foundation for the long-term thing, a long-term institutional support, which will be in the mainstreaming channel, but already offering support to the immediate work which we must do at the grassroots level for training. I remember Theo and I used to say that, Theo, we don't need more resources. We need the same resources to go into training, participatory training, learning by experience, showing them in the field, and demonstration.
Thanks a lot, Amir. There are a few questions regarding the problem of practicing and applying CA in certain crops, such as potato and root crops are often important to smallholder farmers. And there was the question, how is it, or how could it be possible to integrate these root crops in a CA system?
Thank you for that question, and that must again be in our mind all the time. You heard Professor Bash last time. He said that these are principles which are universally applicable, and that is what we must understand, because even the root crops, all root crops, and you know, potato is not a root crop; it's a tuber crop. It has no inclination to dig itself deeply into the soil. But anyway, it is a tuber. It bulks in the soil if you put it in the soil. All tubers and root crops can be seeded, planted with minimum soil disturbance. There is no soil tillage in CA. And that is the ultimate ideal point, that you aim at moving away from disturbance and move towards no disturbance as much as possible. But then keeping in mind, as Professor Bash said, that we are dealing with a cropping system, a diversified cropping system. And so within an area, if you have 10% potato or 5% root crop, fine, the whole area will not be worrying you like the roots and tuber crops. But do keep in mind that root and tuber crops are feasible under CA. Brazil will show you how to do cassava under conservation agriculture, and in fact, quite a bit of cassava actually is grown with tree crops, and same thing with potato. In the UK now, we have potato systems under conservation agriculture, and last year at Groundswell, which is our premier national farmers association event, no-till potato crisps were being served everywhere to show that we're doing so. And with small farmers, it has been possible for the last 20 years. Lebanon, Vietnam, several areas where I've been doing it in Madagascar. We're called mulch potato. So you don't put a tuber so deep in the ground that it has to then can only produce it in, but you put it at the surface, and so the tubers are at the surface. They're covered now. After rice, it is very easy to have mulch potatoes, and once you have good biomass, you can, and as your yields go up, biomass availability becomes possible. So and that mulch potato has been grown for many years. So I saw a nice, very beautiful field of no-till yams in Cuba when we were there in Cuba. So remember, even if you disturb at harvest time, that is no longer tilling. And you then can keep the disturbance low. For example, with groundnut, instead of a digging harvester, you have a lifting harvester. And like in Europe, we have sugar beet areas. I think the most, there are a quarter of a million hectares in Europe, which are all under no-till. And because the harvester can lift each tuber and chop the head, and it's not, doesn't have to dig it deeply out of the ground. So, and these innovations have to be made to ensure that we can then comfortably accommodate root and tuber crops moving forward.
Okay, thank you very much, Amir. I'm just going through the questions and to pick out a few others before, well, coming to a close. For example, there is a question of whether there is any information about the percentage of conservation agriculture area cultivated without the use of herbicides.
No, in fact, that is a very good question, and we have been trying to document that. We don't have a picture of the global area, but I will give you examples. FAO has done some case studies. For example, their pilot scale, FAO's program SARD, Sustainable Agriculture and Rural Development Program, which was a thriving program 10, 15 years ago. It had a component in Arusha. Arusha, for example, the backstoppers, the technical backstoppers were ACT. And you will see that, that no herbicide was used because the crop combination, the crop associations were chosen specifically to smother weed as much as possible, and they succeeded. So there is no herbicide used in CA pilot scaling of 3,600 households in that case. I have just mentioned Mozambique, 32,000, I think it is actually 36,000 households. I supervised a PhD student whom I was going to do in Syria, but Syria got into trouble, but then I got him registered at Reading, and he documented the whole work of Cabo Delgado, which no herbicide, no pesticide of any kind. And he showed the cost benefit analysis. He showed how the what do you call it, the participatory psychic works with farmers, group farmers, FAO, farmer field school arrangements, and so forth. And all the work I've been doing in India with across 3 states in the last 10 years. There's no pesticide used at all in Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, and Bihar, and it is becoming now the group I have been working with. This work now is becoming part of what their interests are, called natural farming, and they're beginning to integrate CA approach into their framework of natural farming. So we have terrific examples, and also some examples in Paraguay I can give you where weed control has been used using roller crimper, and the planting green work now, and this is just for the future, but the planting green work of Pennsylvania University with Soy Doiker, it shows that we are moving more and more into reducing herbicide and pesticide use, but especially herbicide use. We can switch from one crop to another with no dependency as such on say herbicide. And so as Brazil, Ademir Caligari has been showing that with mixture of cover crops, you basically can overcome this constraint. But remember, conservation agriculture farmers use much reduced rate of herbicide application, then the tillage farmer who not only destroy the soil and all the soil mediated ecosystem services, but then they come on top of that with their cocktails of herbicides.
Thank you, Amir. There's another completely different question here, whether you could say something about inclusive responsibility.
Excellent question, and thank you for asking that. I listed this whole bundle of crises which we've been looking at, and I'm sure my colleagues who work with me regularly, we have not systematically discussed it, but we're all wondering that our career, that these crises are leaving indelible marks on our career and on our record and on our legacies. And the question is, and in the meantime, we have seen that the other struggles are working away, and this inclusive responsibility essentially, first of all, it deconstructs the current driver, the main huge driver of these crises, and that is our political, but especially our economic system, which that political system supports. And this economic system has been at the root cause of many of these crises, if not all. We are a bit shy of talking about this because we also remember how to manage the narratives which this economic system releases day in and day out to basically inform the public and eventually you might even say to indoctrinate the public as to what they are doing. And it is this economic system is essentially based on competition, individualism. You will see, if you study it in more detail, on colonization, the historical colonization, racism and slavery, and creating underclass so that cheap labor can be there, patriarchy, extraction, materialism, injustice. In fact, injustice, land injustice as well. The Via Campesina refuses now a billion people, a quarter of a billion households refuse to cooperate with this this economic ideology. Exclusion, extrapolation, exploitation, but then also commodification of animals, human beings, and the resources of this earth. That is what we're dealing with. And that is affecting every one of us. Everyone listening to this presentation is affected. And if we want a systematic solution to all this list of crises I have pointed to which you are familiar because you can connect with CA to this, but then there is a bundle of chronic challenges at the global level. We have exceeded planetary safe limits in 5 out of the 10 planetary boundaries. 4 of them we have shot through all the protecting boundaries. And so we need to ask ourselves that if we want systematic solutions to the root causes, we need to build alternatives to this system which has been going on not only through my lifetime and through your lifetime, it started even before that. And the book tries to analyze that. And if we need to then have, we must whatever system we create, whether it is going to be green economy, green democratic economy, economy based on degrowth for the coming decades, the ecological economy, whatever it is. But fundamentally, that time is over, that any framework can just be competitive and exclusive. The framework must be finally based on the universal values or universal ethics, a framework of responsibility for everybody, because we are born with responsibility, aligned with universal human values. Otherwise, we will keep on recreating the same problems. And I listed that the authors who worked on that book, which my daughter Layla and I edited, came up with a framework of 6 themes, and these 6 themes are very important, which holds the framework, provides the glue to hold the framework, and I listed those 6 themes, and which allows us to move everybody, the whole world, more towards holistic paradigms and mindset, which includes our transforming our relationship with other animals and nature, narratives not of scarcity. For example, FAO, I'm sorry to say, Bede, I'm sorry to say, but you are burdened with the narratives of scarcity, scarcity, scarcity. Of course, we're surrounded by abundance. The global world produces already enough food to feed, I say, twice the number of people. And yet we talk about scarcity of this. The framework must support ecological and multifunctional agriculture paradigm, like conservation agriculture, a magical paradigm. And then it must work, this framework must now begin to work for degrowth, decentralizing power in food and economic system. In other words, localization. Localization as an explicit ambition. And then we must connect, and I even mean we, CA community, must connect with diets which promote humane and planetary, human and planetary health. We cannot just keep saying, oh, look at us, we're producing, and then we find that it is killing 2 billion people already. It is keeping 2 billion people starved. And then we need, like our movement, which is a wonderful example of technically sound social movement, we need to expand on these social movements coming out of civil society. And this 6 themes hold this ethical framework together. And the book shows that if we create this framework, because where this framework is created, we get the following. We get we will get an inclusively responsible, for example, for the food and agriculture paradigm. We will get a paradigm which will be obviously ecologically sustainable, as Professor Bash explained, and multifunctional. We connect farms with watersheds, watershed with community, community with areas and beyond. We meet increasingly need for sustainable and healthy whole food plant-based diet. We integrate into the wider social movement, and then we respect and protect the rights of all sentient beings, humans and non-humans, and live free from human oppression and exploitation. And finally, we can begin to respect and protect the rights of nature based on a duty of care towards the earth. Now that is the framework and some of the possible outcomes within which CA has a central role to play, and it has a lot of experience to offer.
Thank you, Amir, for this exhaustive, addressing this question this way. I could see that this question would give food for another 2 hours of discussion and your reflections on this. I will still address 2 questions, short questions, and please also try to answer short. One is whether you could think if a global framework for CA promoting policies would be useful.
Global policy for
global framework for policies for CA promoting policies, whether this would be useful.
Well, I think that to me, the framework of inclusive responsibility can serve as a global policy within which CA fits in very well, but we will also be promoting other interconnected things because the whole earth is interconnected. Some of you have read about the Gaia principle, but this is a whole living organism, and all our crises are interconnected, and they come out of the same set of errors and so forth. And so this ethical framework of values called inclusive responsibility, where it engages everybody at all levels, from nursery school all the way to whatever level. And then individual policy drivers like FAO, which is rather quiet on the policy front at the global level. It's overshadowed by World Bank, but even World Bank would begin to, at least people who work in this institution will eventually say to the politicians that, sorry, there are better ways from what you're saying. There are better ways, and this inclusive inclusively responsible framework for development is to me, I would offer that for CA. And we must also connect. We can't just say CA, because we must also are situating CA within the other connected interests. CA on its own is not going to hold this world together.
Okay, final question, whether you could see if there was a kind of premium for CA grown crops, if this could also contribute to a further and a faster adoption of CA.
Yeah, I think many people, when they fully understand the power of CA for the farmers, for the local community, for the society as a whole, and for also, for the restoration and regeneration, we say that isn't this enough? Isn't this enough? And then yet we realize the transformation is not easy. Moving from one mindset to another mindset when your livelihoods are dependent on it requires understanding even from one's own point of view, how we behave towards opportunities in our careers. But when you are faced with nature every day and hunger every day, and also you are in a business environment, yes, I think that I would say that we should regard this as development investment, as Spain has done, as Italy is doing. That we give transformational support. UK now for last 2 years has been funding no-till seeder, 40% grant. The right-wing government is giving, because they're realizing they can't escape this now. So we need to be clear that we don't want to subsidize this. This is development investment by the nation, just as, for example, Brazil did with smallholders throughout the country, part of their Baso Carbon program, Programa Baso Carbon. Brazil, Lula opened up a second ministry for smallholder, and they were all integrated into the CA program, so they were all heavily supported, and including, if finance is available, well, we can start with no-till seeders and training training support of all kinds. Farmers love to gather. If there's something useful to offer, they don't want to waste their time. And so we can invest in those kinds of events. So yes, there is a case, and eventually you might say that, oh, isn't there a case for large-scale delivery of ecosystem services like cleaning up water system, sequestering carbon at the level which the globe now desperately required? And I would say yes, but even there, I would say that the government will have to be careful. It must be careful, because subsidies, and especially government subsidies, do not come out of the politician's pocket. The government subsidies, they come out of taxpayers' money. And so in trying to say, can we not get government support? Yes. And this means that we have to be in a different culture, that we must make sure that the public is participating in these broader effort, so they know that their taxes are paying for goods which are cleaning up their water system, giving them healthy food, less toxic food, cleaning up the environment. Like in the UK, I will finish with that. The UK, every family has to cough up, and they don't know about it because the politicians have to keep it a secret. They have to come up with $1,000 per family to keep the water system clean. And even then, there is enough fear in the public that they now are buying more than 12 million bottles of bottled water.
Thank you very much, Amir. But I think the question was also regarding eventually if consumers, or if there was a certified CA premium that consumers, not the taxpayer himself, but the consumer as such, could also, well, provide some incentive to CA.
I'm sorry, I did not answer this.
No, I think
this is already happening. This is already happening, where you can display that you're
about the government about.
Yeah, so this is already happening, that we are showing that in France they're getting a premium. The bakers are giving CA wheat a premium. This is already, because eventually we'll have organic CA more and more, and that will already is fetching a premium in the supermarkets.
Thanks a lot, Amir. I think we do have now come to a close. I'm really sorry for all questions that I could not address in this short period of time. We may send the questions to Amir, and he might eventually respond to one or the other by email. I guess he has most of your emails. Actually, he has a huge database, the greatest I know of. So he might answer your questions directly. With saying this, I would now like Dr. Hafiz to find some closing words from the side of FAO before I then close definitely.
Thank you very much, Gottlieb. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, dear colleagues and friends, depending where on the globe you are based. I thank you very much, all of you, for your interest, for participation in the webinar, and your strong support to the widening the CA network in the different regions of the world. I also thank you very much for the interesting questions you raised. We, from FAO side, especially thank ECAF colleagues for close cooperation, for organizing the series of webinars for the preparation to the 8th World Congress on Conservation Agriculture. I also thank my team leader, Fan Beat, for introducing the webinar and welcoming the participants. Of course, a special thanks goes to Professor Amir, our good friend and colleague, who has a vast experience on sustainable intensification of crop production, particularly in conservation agriculture globally. As it was mentioned, he is also contributing a lot as a moderator for FAO's global community of practice on conservation agriculture. Amir shared with us the recent information and updated on the current status of CA. We saw the successful experiences on spreading CA from a number of countries in South America, Middle East, Central and South Asia, and Africa. So the area under CA is growing, and especially the number of farmers, particularly small-scale farmers practicing CA, is rapidly increasing in all regions and the countries. So actually, this is a clear answer to the pessimism and the hesitations on testing and adopting CA in different types of soil, agroclimatic zones, and cropping and farming systems. So we all understand that CA is evidence-based and farmers-driven approach, and meaning that farmers invented, adopted, and promoted CA and CA-based technologies. And the concept was accepted and further promoted by researchers, extension experts, and practitioners. So, and always we were linking successful adoption of CA with the availability of proper equipment. But today, Amir also clearly described 5 criteria, and you can see that knowledge is needed, education is needed, proper governance, policy, strategies are needed, and also important to have partnership to widen our network, to our cooperation. So time is short, but I thank Amir for excellent presentation, and he also provided a clear justification on social, ethical, and inclusive framework of CA and benefits of CA and how holistic approach of CA can contribute to generative agriculture. In our previous webinar, I introduced the FAO's global program on dryland agriculture. I would like to reiterate that within this program also we consider CA as one of the key technologies or elements for improving soil, crop, water, and eventually livelihood in the dryland. With these few remarks, I would like to thank you all, and once again, and I will be looking forward to seeing you all for the next webinar. Thank you.
Hafiz, thank you very much for your nice words, which I make mine as well. I want to thank all the panelists for your participation, of course, especially my great thanks to Amir for this very, very new and nice presentation on the successful experiences all around the world. And hopefully we will hear very soon that the 200 million hectare barrier is broken. I want to also thank all attendees for their interest to be with us, and I hope that the next seminars to follow will also find your interest, and that we can have you with us again. Well, I still want to close with a comment that was made by one of the participants, that poverty and illiteracy alleviation could also be very, very important drivers for more CA adoption. And hopefully, as it was also mentioned, we can have CA as the new normal as we know it right now from the COVID pandemic situation. Hopefully in the near future, CA will be the new normal. With this, I close this session, and I thank you again very much for your participation. See you hopefully in 2 weeks again.